Nothing Personal starts in 30 seconds. It's just business. This is Nothing Personal.
Here you go. Here you go. Yeah.
Resilience. That's the Nothing Personal word of the day. Yes, we're back. It is Monday, August 19th, 2024, and we're starting with the word resilience. It is one of the most overused words inside any clubhouse, any locker room. After a tough victory, our guys showed resilience. Oh, we lost. We got to show a little more grit. We got to show a little more resilience. Well, if you're not an athlete, I'm not an athlete. I've been around athletes. I feel like I did something this weekend that showed resilience, so I got to pretend I was. I climbed a 14er here in Colorado, which means a mountain up to 14,272 feet. Took 7 hours to go up and down because, of course, there's no gondola, which I was hoping for because one of my practice hikes earlier in the week climbed up a mountain, but then got to take a gondola down a mountain. What was different for this charitable climb that I did is you had to go up and then you had to go down. And for those of you who run hills, you know that going down stinks. Your quads are shattered, your shin splints are raging, and you're looking around at Coloradoans who are used to the altitude, who are in shape, and there's me with a bloody shin. I fell on slip rock through my pants, which I didn't throw out. I'm going to try to clean them. All done in the name of trying to do something that anyone could do. You just have to wake up and do it. Waking up at 3 a.m. to get to the trailhead at 5, to leave in the dark with a headlamp on. By the time you're back, of course, the sun is scorching on you. You've got suntan lotion on. Try not to burn your knickers off. And then you realize that you didn't put in certain spots. So I'm a little burnt if you're watching this on the Nothing Person with David Samson YouTube channel. All this done to raise money for a close friend whose daughter tragically passed away at 14 years old. The reason I like doing, side note, we'll get to MLB. There's so much to get to. I feel like I missed so a lot. The reason I like doing all these athletic, in quotes, events to raise money for charity is I love to be reminded when I am feeling overwhelmed, when I'm feeling as though I'm not doing enough or accomplished enough or whatever is in my head. I like to be reminded that I am one lucky person in almost every single way. The tragedy of losing a child is one that I cannot understand. It has not happened to me. God willing, it will never happen to me. It's not the way the world is supposed to work. And to be uncomfortable for 7 hours, to be anxious for 24 hours prior to that, or 2 months prior to that, which I was, it's a small price to pay to help a friend. It's a small price to have someone's memory live on. And it's temporary, the pain that I have. The pain that the father has, his name is Javier, that's not temporary, that's permanent. So I did show resilience. Resilience. I was preparing for this show. This was a tough one to prepare for because thank you for all of your love and all of the comments about the sit downs last week and the mailbags that we did. We didn't want to leave you for a day without any show. So we had these sit downs. Thank you again to Jeff Berry, the agent. You should listen to that one. And Dominique Foxworth and Rich Eisen and Pablo Torre, all of whom have interesting perspectives on interesting issues. And then the mailbags, 2 of them will come from you, always from you, and things you want to know that we just don't get to necessarily during a regular show day. Of course, being as obsessive as I am about what we do, because I take it so seriously that you give me 50 minutes of your time, I tried to keep up and did on all of the events of the past 10 days, and there's no way to fit them in a 50-minute show. So we chose ones. You may hear my voice has a frog in it. Hi, my name is David Samson. By the way, Coca, Red Rocks Amphitheater, if you ever get to Denver and want to climb a mountain and you can get tickets to go see something at Red Rocks Amphitheater, did that last night instead of resting and sleeping and saw a band called OAR. They built an amphitheater inside rocks, basically. The most unbelievable rocks you've ever seen. The sound quality is perfect, as opposed to Empower Field, where I couldn't hear a damn thing. When we built Marlins Park, we were worried about the sound system, and we were told from the contractors who did our sound, yeah, close to the field, you really can't hear the sound system. And I said, that's ridiculous. That's where the highest paying customers are. We need to make sure there are speakers pointed in a way that the people sitting behind the plate and down the first and third base line can hear. I'm way more interested in that. And they said, well, the upper deck, they're going to hear you perfectly. And I said, well, the upper deck's always going to be closed. I didn't say that when we built it. I said, that's great, but those are the cheap seats. Anyway, couldn't hear a thing in Empower Field, but a lot of loyal Broncos fans going to a preseason game, I'll tell you that. Resilience is something that interests me because teams have to show that. And the reason teams have to show it is people have to show it. And the reason people have to show it is that something is going to happen in your game, whether it's a specific game during the course of your season, whether it's rule changes that happen, whatever is going on around you, whether it's in your life. Resilience, as I think about it, may be the adjective most required to function at a high level. MLB spends hours, and I don't mean 5 hours, I mean 500 hours. I may mean 5,000 hours thinking about a way to make the game better for you. That's what we say. That's what we always used to say on the competition committee when I served on it. What do we do to make the game better? Is this the game? Bud Selig and Rob Manfred will always say. Look at your game. You like it? You men is what was said. I guess it'd be men and women, or you people. You people are in charge. And so you can hire Theo Epstein. You can put a bunch of committees together. That's what companies do, not just baseball. It's always very, very funny to me. We have decided to form a committee to search blank. We're going to find out about that. And then we're going to give our suggestions to another committee who then is going to decide with a third committee whether something should be put to a vote to be suggested as a potential change. All companies do it. Baseball is very reticent to change, feeling as though you, the fans, can't handle it, when, of course, in fact, it's the owners who can't handle it because they're generally old school owners who don't want to see too much change in their game. When the pitch clock came, it was revolutionary that such a thing would be allowed. Sometimes owners, in middle of owners' meetings, see things going on in the game, and they say to the commissioner, fix it. We've talked about it, and we're going to talk about it on this show in a minute. Injuries is the number one example. Fix it. We're paying people not to play. Sometimes the commissioner then says to owners, hey, are you aware that bullpen games in the World Series stink and our broadcasters don't like it? Are you aware that when starting pitchers are famous and there's a matchup, that adds extra attention to the game and you get more gate revenue? Are you aware that when we promote games with our national broadcasters, what is promoted is the starting pitcher matchup, and that studies have found, much like economic studies for benefits around a baseball ballpark or any sort of ballpark, but studies have found that when there is an intriguing starting matchup that a borderline baseball fan has heard of, they're going to turn on the game. Well, of course, the GMs who are hot right now are the analytic GMs. It started back when Blake Snell did 5 and dive and Tampa lost the World Series. It started probably before that. Analytics people will tell you, listen, 3 times through the lineup, not a good idea. Quality starts used to be something that would be argued in front of an arbitrator. We should have talked about that with Jeff Berry during our sit down, the agent for Mark Burley and Buster Posey and many others. Go listen to that show from last week, please, if you want. It's good. Quality starts 6 innings pitched or more, 3 earned runs allowed or fewer. I sat and watched thousands of games as president of a team. I never, ever cared about quality starts because to me, 6 innings pitched of a 9-inning game, having to get 3 bullpen innings every day when you basically have signed the worst closer in the world in Heath Bell, or you've got the best string of closers of all time from Borowski to Benitez to Looper or Bina, whoever you had. 6 innings pitched is not what you're looking for out of your starter. And 3 runs? That doesn't seem quality to me. So tried to get the quality start measure changed, didn't work. But then what happened is that nobody went 6 innings anymore. So then you got stats. The blanks have not had a quality start in 69 games. Well, the people who have are 20 games under 500, who are just above you on that list. So what's the difference? So baseball is going away from the concept, at least the baseball people are, of what a quality start is. But then this past week, we heard a rumor. And what Bananarama said was that they're looking to maybe make a rule where starting pitchers have to pitch 6 innings. They have to. Now, we'll make some exceptions. What would be some exceptions that you would think of that would allow a team to pull a starter before 6 innings? Let's think of one. Yeah. Oh, you have 100 pitches before 6 innings. You're damn right. That's when you'd pull a pitcher. Hold on. Let's think of another one. You've given up blank number of earned runs. Let's say 4 earned runs. Yeah, that would probably do it for me too. You want to pull a guy. What else? Let's think of another one that they'd probably need as an exception. Oh, I got one. Injury. Got to pull a guy if he's injured. All right, that's no, we got to get another one. Oh, obviously, a crappy inning. Like when you've got blank pitches in an inning and then you call down to your dugout and say, hey, he's not going out for another inning. Or you've talked about it before the game started and said, if Paul Skenes ever throws 42 pitches in an inning, he is not going out for the next inning. There's always a number that you associate with that. So that'll have to be an exception. So let's think about it. Here's a rule. Major League Baseball starting pitchers must go 6 innings if they're pitching great. Thank you. We've really changed the game here. We want to tell everybody, and we want to make sure that we advertise it because ESPN, with their opt-out, they're going to love this new rule. They're going to be very thrilled. People are making a big deal. It requires a lot more study. Requires then implementation in the independent leagues and implementation at the minor leagues. It would be epic. Well, speaking as someone who's negotiated a lot of agreements, it's not the rule that matters, it's the exceptions. So I think it would be very important for everyone to pay attention to what the exceptions are going to be, because it's a good PR move to say that we really want to have starting pitchers go more than 6. And if they don't, we're going to take away their DH or we're going to give them a slap on the hand. It's total horse hockey. The chances of an actual real rule where a starting pitcher has to go 6 innings, 23 votes by the owners, you're lucky if you get 5 votes by the owners, because the baseball people are going to knock on the owner's perch and say, excuse me, remember the one thing you cared most about? Injuries? Well, this rule, not good. Oh, don't worry. We'll spend years stretching out the players. We'll start in the minor leagues. We'll start in Little League Baseball. We'll teach little leaguers to throw 6 innings. Okay, everyone calm down. Of course, what I said before is that injuries are the bane of our existence. Think about where you work right now. Just look to your left, look to your right. If you've got AirPods on or you're listening to the show or watching it live on the Nothing Personal with David Samson YouTube channel, and you're looking to your left and right and seeing maybe nobody, maybe somebody. Aren't you wondering to yourself, what is the one thing that I want to protect myself from? And I'm not talking violence. I'm talking you want to protect yourself from being in a situation where you cannot have an upside, where it's a very binary thing that you are at place A and it has a result in point B and there's nothing you can do about it. That's what injuries are. Owners, presidents, GMs, they look at the injuries and say, we've studied, we've tried, but the thing that we know is that when a player gets injured, they are being paid not to play. It's like you being paid not to work. It doesn't work out for your company, does it? We've spent countless hours going through player injuries. I could give you a list since I've been gone of guys who were out. Tyler Glasnow just put on the injured list. The old elbow tendonitis. So let me explain what that injury is. The way that we announce injuries is to be misleading to you, I'm sad to say, and we would put it under the umbrella of competitiveness, which it really was, because for whatever reason, we thought that the Padres and the D-backs, who were 3 and 4 games behind the Dodgers, they're surging toward the top of the standings. Do you think that the Dodgers think, which they do, we can't announce that Glasnow's gone for a long period of time because we don't want to give any more confidence to the Padres and the D-backs. So we're just going to call it tendonitis. We're not going to call it a strain. We're not going to call it inflammation. For those of you who've had tendonitis, tendonitis is when you put some ice on it, take some Aleve, and then go back and run. And it's going to hurt when you've got tendonitis. There's no question about it. But it is not a structural issue. We would hide structural issues behind other announcements, as I said, like the old Flexor strain. What really is happening with Tyler Glasnow is if you go over his innings pitched in his career, when you look at the injuries he's had or the amount of time he's missed, the Dodgers have figured out, I think we're going to be in the playoffs, which they are. We better make sure that Tyler is ready to go. Dave Roberts even talked about it. When he comes back, the governor is off. The point of being in this process, he's not going to come back until we feel like we can use him the way he's supposed to be used as a major league ace. Code word. Dave Roberts could have come out and simply said, yeah, we're going to rest him a bit. Now's a good time, because now's a really good time. The middle of August is when you try to do these sort of rest things when your team is pushing to October. September is when you do the shutdown thing for teams not going to October. Keep that in mind in a moment, please. So Glasnow is on the injured list. The Dodgers still have Yamamoto on the injured list. Walker Buehler's not on the injured list, but he's been terrible. Clayton Kershaw just came back and had a great start yesterday, Coca. He's now back to being the backbone and the ace of this band-aided rotation. Well, for those of you betting futures, I can only tell you that if Clayton Kershaw is your game one starter in the playoffs, you are not going to win the series. Hard stop. If Clayton Kershaw is the number one starter for the Dodgers will not prevail through October. It's simply not going to happen. So pitching injuries are one thing. The Dodgers are also dealing with player position injuries. Freddie Freeman hurt his finger, as you see on that defensive play. Can't grip a bat. He'll get his MRI today. He'll be fine. Again, Freddie Freeman, you need his bat come October, because even if he's healthy but does a donut like he and Betts did last year, your team's going to be eliminated. So the process now for teams since the trade deadline, which happened about 20 days ago, I think it was exactly 3 weeks ago tomorrow, teams begin to look where they are now versus where they were. You are about 12 days from sending out playoff invoices. That was my thing. just be within 5 games of a wild card. I don't care if you're behind 10 teams, but if we're 5 games out to start September, we're one hot streak away, and we're going to send you playoff invoices to help float us cash through the bear of an off season. You're looking at your trade deadline. You're wondering how your team's doing. I wonder what the Yankees are thinking. I was thinking about that, Coca, watching the highlights of the end of the Little League Classic. Congrats again if you didn't watch it. What's cooler than playing in front of kids? What's cooler than big leaguers playing where little leaguers play? There's just something magical about it. Another brilliant move. Remember why MLB does this. Side note, Coca, not in the rundown, but don't forget that we had the game at Rickwood earlier this year, the Little League Classic. These are all special one-off games that the broadcasters love. The Yankees didn't love getting walked off again. Clay Holmes blew his 10th save of the season. I wonder whether I meant to call Stanton on this, Coca. Look at me, Louie, but I'm going to text him later. Hey, does Clay Holmes remind you of Heath Bell? And he'll say no. Clay Holmes is fun to be around. We love him. We've got his back. I'll let you know if he says something different, as long as it's on the record, because I am a journalist. I'm a media guy. Yankees are dealing with Jazz Chisholm's injury. Some of you may be thinking that I did a victory dance when he got hurt. You misunderstand me greatly if that's what you think. And I think the audience knows me better than that. I'm not celebrating when anybody gets injured. What I do celebrate is when there's another data point for presidents and owners to look at that GMs tend to ignore when they want to make a deal and they think that they can make an outcome different than what has generally always happened. Jazz is just someone who gets hurt. That's not a knock on Jazz. When he has not been hurt, he's been fine. Now, for the Yankees, he's been above average. He's hitting like 316, 7 bombs, one off a position player, but it counts. That elbow injury, they showed some video yesterday of him taking grounders at third base, hoping to avoid any sort of issues. Because remember, your UCL on your non-throwing hand, no problem. Bryce Harper came back and was fantastic after Tommy John on his non-throwing hand. Well, if you've never had a bad elbow and you don't know what it feels like when you swing, when you have no ligament, it can hurt, which makes what Ohtani's doing this year so unbelievably awesome. But that said, the Yankees do need Jazz back. The Yankees, I think, look at their trade deadline and they are still going to say, hey, we did the right thing. Everything's fine. Aaron Boone is still going to come out and say, gentlemen, right now, Clay's the guy. You know, we got good people behind him, but we can't get rid of Clay just because of 10 blown saves. He's throwing the ball well. That's a quote from Booney. I love you, Booney. I'm picturing you doing it in Bill Beck's voice, our former traveling secretary. He's throwing the ball really well. Aren't we a results-based game? Do you know who says that their pitcher's throwing the ball well? A manager of a guy who's blowing it. The other thing we do when hitters are in a slump, oh, he's seen the pitches. That's what we'd always say. Oh, he's seen the ball really well. He's not getting the bounces. He's one swing away from getting right back on track. We actually would go into clubhouses and talk to players like that. I'm looking back on it, Matt. It's so asinine what we did because the players would look at us and say, yeah, you're right. I am one swing away from being out of my slump. Yeah, it feels really good coming out of my hands. What doesn't feel good is my neck that hurts every time I turn around because the ball is skyrocketed in the afternoon. But don't panic, Yankees. You're keeping up with the Orioles. There are teams who should be panicking right now. There really are. I'll give you one of them. If you're the Pittsburgh Pirates, you really got to panic. And here's why. Because you made a bunch of changes. You brought in huge pieces at the deadline. You traded for Brian De La Cruz from the Marlins. Impact bat. Not. You traded for Isaiah Keener Falefa. Impact defensive player. What a bat for the Blue Jays. That was big. People in Pittsburgh were excited. Best pitcher in the game in Skenes. Got a great starting staff. The talk starts from inside the Baseball front office, you don't want to face us in a short series. You get that out to the media. The media gets it out to the fans. And then it comes out as no one wants to face the Pirates in a short series. And of course, the answer by people who are running teams is, yeah, you're right, because we're not going to be facing the Pirates because they're not going to be there in the postseason. It really is so spiteful inside front offices. Yeah, we're not worried about that guy. They stink. What do you think the Pirates should be doing with Paul Skenes right now? Been thinking about that, waiting for him to get hurt. His velocity's down, clearly. He's not throwing pitches at 100 the way he did. He's not striking out batters at the rate he was. Remember, his first 12 starts, he had like almost 100 strikeouts, like 97 strikeouts. His last 4 starts, he's only had 24. His walks per inning pitched are way up. His velocity down, command. Guess what happens when your arm gets tired? What do you think happens if you had a guess? You can't repeat your delivery and you lose your command. And when you lose your command, you walk more people. And when you're playing for a team that has the worst record in baseball this month, the Pirates are 3-12. And you know, because you speak to your doctors and you know for sure that every one of your players has a certain number of pitches in his arm, period. It could be 20 years worth of pitches. Hi, Nolan Ryan. It could be a few years worth of pitches, but they're damn good. What's up, JJ? But whatever the case may be, you have to figure out, when do we use these pitches? It's the same theory that I watched at Empower Field at Mile High Stadium last night with nobody playing. Jordan Love in his shorts. Why would you risk anyone getting hurt in the, by the way, preseason football, off the subject, Coca, we're getting a week 18 and we're getting it soon, because I was sitting around a bunch of Broncos and Packers fans at that preseason game. Who are these guys? It felt like the beginning of the movie Major League. And these are major baseball fans who weren't exactly wondering what the line was of the game or what the over-under was on the player props. They need a regular season game in its place, and it's going to happen. So the Pirates are now out of the playoffs. They're 7 games back of the wild card. They've got this pitcher who's a sensation. He started the All-Star game. They just did a whole thing about his TikTok influencer girlfriend who dressed up as Paul Skenes. It got a ton of attention. Baseball is praying to God they don't shut him down. But guess what? You want to evaluate Bob Nutting. You want to evaluate Ben Cherington. You want to be upset that their trade deadline moves didn't work. Don't. There are teams at the deadline who will do things that work. Sometimes they do things that don't work. It doesn't mean you're a bad front office, and that is not a self-serving statement, though it may sound so. The fact of the matter is, you look at what your team does post-deadline, it's not like the Pirates have showed any resilience. They stink. Therefore, you pack it in. They like the fact that Skenes can fill a stadium. Maybe you only have him pitch at home a couple more times. But you can bet your bippy that Paul Skenes is not going to finish the season in the Pirates rotation. As a matter of fact, Coca, just because we're here, I'm going to give you a wait to see. Wait to see is when we tell you something's going to happen. If it does, great. If it doesn't, fine. Paul Skenes will be shut down by the Pirates before the end of the season. Wait to see. Of course, the Pirates have other things on their mind. Did you see the story where the Major League Baseball Players Association is suing the Pirates? Now, I've been sued by the union my fair of times, almost every year. Raise your payroll, David. Yeah? Do you want to take a look at our audited statements, which you have in your possession, Mr. Union? Do you want to see whether or not we're making money or not with our payroll? Those things tend to go away quickly. One time we had to sign a guy to a long-term deal to take the fall for all of the teams who are being sued by baseball, but I digress. It's a story for another day. The Pirates are being sued for something fascinating. So I'm wearing an NPDS shirt right now, which you can get at davidsamsonpodcast.com. I got this patch here. Have you seen the uniform patches? Well, the Pirates did a deal with Sheets. And if you look at the Pirates jerseys, when Skenes pitches, it says Sheets. It's not Sheets and Giggles. It's just Sheets. Sheetz. Well, here's the lawsuit. It's so good. The union is saying to the Pirates and to Sheets that you are using our players in a way that's not allowed. You have purloined their name, image, and likeness. You have misappropriated it in order to promote the campaign around your uniform jersey and to promote what Sheets is. And Sheets has been using players. Why does this happen? When you do a naming rights deal, when you do a uniform patch deal, when you do a multi-million-dollar sponsorship, the company wants players. They want appearances. They want autograph signings. They want the higher ups in the company to get to shake the hand of the athlete, especially in the marketing department, because then the marketing department says to the C-suite level employees, oh, this partnership is worth it. I'm telling you, we got to keep it going. Sometimes companies want to cut commercials. I want you to go back and really think about commercials with players that you've seen. Sometimes you see players do commercials and it looks like they're in their MLB uniform, but they're not. Sometimes they do commercials and they are in their uniform. What's the difference? This is how much money you pay to the team, how much money you pay to baseball for the license. But there's a rule. The rule is that when you have the ability to license, let's just say, to put a patch on your uniform, that is true. But that does not give you the right, the group right, it's called, to use a bunch of players in order to promote that product. The specific rule that the union is alleging has been violated is that you can't use 3 or more players in a calendar year in any marketing campaign to promote this agreement or for any other commercial purpose. Unless, of course, not written in the complaint, you pay. And I mean pay the union, pay the players. Sometimes to get around these rules, you know what we do? Sometimes we would have the sponsor go direct to the player and give a little extra, just a little something, something. Hey, the Marlins have approved it. Go ahead, wear the uni. We'll give you a little piece. The Pirates came out and said something that fascinated me after this lawsuit was filed. We were surprised by this complaint as we have been engaged in active discussions on this matter, said the SVP of communications. Complaints generally are not a surprise unless there's like a service of process for something you didn't know you did. Do you think that the Pirates were unaware that they were using players and using more players than they were allowed to do? Were they surprised that the union focuses on what these teams do? Were you surprised given the way the union is? Give me a break. Ends quickly. The Pirates will increase their payroll, and the Pirates will have a settlement with the union that they will not use the number of players they use to promote Sheets. That's it. It'll go away. I'm going to go away. Let me take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to review. I've watched a lot of movies every day, and I got a movie to review for you. And then I want to talk about something that's going on that you think doesn't impact you, but I think it does as it relates to the way that you watch your sports. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Nothing Personal. We're back, baby. It is August 19th. Thank you so much for staying with us while we were away. But we are back live, 8 a.m. Nothing Personal with David Samson YouTube channel. You can catch us on DraftKings at 10 o'clock Eastern. Of course, you can download, subscribe, keep doing what you're doing. I'm not sure we're going to win any Edward Murrow Awards, which Pablo Torre finds out just did. Congratulations to you, you journalist, Pablo. But we've won some awards ourselves. I was very busy training and flying around and doing things, but I still watched a movie every day. I finally got to see Twisters. Not Twister, the one with Helen Hunt and Paxton. No, not that one. Twisters. Sydney Sweeney's boyfriend, the guy from Top Gun Maverick. The guy having a moment. He's in more movies than Kevin Hart, not on Netflix. Glenn Powell. No Cameron from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. But there's a new cast of characters. It's not really a sequel to Twister. They're calling it a reimagining. I always like that. We're going to reimagine what it would be like to have a woman and a man team up and try to stop Twisters by studying them and making them disappear, maybe. Figuring out ways to have people almost blown away. Everyone loves to see that. Who doesn't want to drive into a storm and then some people die, some people don't, but the stars won't die? That's always what you know. No matter how bad the Twister is. You know what you don't want to be in a Twister film? You don't want to have a supporting role. You're probably going to bite it in an early Twister. My issue with Twisters is that I'm 56 years old. I'll admit it. I'm partial to my Twister. Yes, I am. And my Twister was a way better movie. I'm not saying that I'm yucking on a Steven Spielberg executive produced movie. Not directed, but executive produced. I'm not saying that it's not fun to watch Glenn Powell chase Twisters, thinking to yourself, wow, is with that face, that's what you're doing for a living? No, I wasn't thinking that either. I was thinking, where's the originality? Does anyone have an original screenplay that I can find? I spent $19.99 on Twisters. I did. I don't suggest you do. When it's free on one of your streaming channels, get on it because it's entertaining. Streaming channels. I wish John Skipper were next to me. I wish we did a show, Coca, where I could sit with John Skipper and Pablo Torre and talk about media rights deals and streaming services. That'd be amazing. We should call it like the sporting class, something like that. While I was gone, a judge granted an injunction to Fubo TV, basically putting Venu on halt. Don't change the channel right now. Do you not know what Venu is? Yeah, that great bundle that we've talked about on the sporting class and also on Nothing Personal. Venu without the E, VENU, pronounced Venu. That combination without CBS, remember the combination of Fox and Disney and Warner Brothers Discovery, where they got together and said, hey, give us your channels. Hey, you, give us your channels. You know what we're going to do? We're going to make all sports on these channels. We're going to put them on one place, and then we're going to charge people for them. Well, wait a minute. Can't we get those channels another way? Of course you can. But we're going to get people who were with Hulu, and we're going to say, why would you want to be with Hulu for $100? You can be with just Fox, Disney, and Warner Brothers on a sports tier and pay $50. Well, that's pretty nice. That's interesting. Except here's the problem. There's a company out there called Fubo, if you know what Fubo is. Fubo is trying to get you to pay for channels, but I digress. They said, dear judge, I feel like this may be a violation of antitrust. I feel like this very much could go against any sort of competitive measures, and really, this is an anti-competitive thing. Meanwhile, Fox and Disney were looking at Warner Brothers Discovery saying, man, what are you bringing to the table? Thank God you signed up the French Open and you got a few CFP games because you're losing the NBA. Oh, I guess you could bring us the new Inside the NBA show, which will be Inside Sports with the Inside the NBA guys, because everyone's going to want to watch what they all have to say, just like you did on CNN with the Barkley show. Or was that I can't remember what show Barkley started and it didn't work. Why did the judge grant this injunction, you're asking? Because to grant an injunction, what has to be proven is that the person trying to get the injunction is going to be harmed immediately if the injunction is not granted. And on top of that, in a lawsuit that's already been filed, the person filing the lawsuit or the company is pretty likely to succeed. Well, that's what this judge said. The judge said, Fubo, we do appreciate what you're saying. We got to figure out more about this little trifecta thing here, this Venu thing. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and not allow it to start. At which point, Fox, Disney, and Warner Brothers released a joint statement. I'm pretty surprised it was a joint statement because if I'm on the board of directors of Warner Brothers, I'm happy not to be a part of this because I got nothing to add to it anymore. They said, "We respectfully disagree with the court's ruling and are appealing it. We believe that Fubo's arguments are wrong on the facts and the law." It's always good to have both on your side. "And that Fubo has failed to prove it is legally entitled to a preliminary injunction." Now, think about this. What these guys are saying in their statement is that Fubo hasn't proved it's entitled to a preliminary injunction. We haven't yet said that they're not going to prevail in their suit, which is one of the criteria used to grant the injunction, but let's not, mince words or split hairs. But Venu got together and said that Venu Sports, in addition to all this, is a pro-competitive option that aims to enhance consumer choice by reaching a segment of viewers who are currently not served by existing subscription options. I'd like you to take that sentence if you're the judge, and I'd like you to tell me what your view is. Do you have the ability to get Fox? I'm just throwing it out there. What about Disney, ABC, ESPN? What about Warner Brothers, TNT, True TV, Max? What is your ability to get that? Are there subscription options? What they're saying in their statement is a loser concept, because what they're saying is there are no options for these Venu channels. What they should have said is, of course, there are ways to get it, but this is way better for the consumer, because what the consumer has to pay to get the options currently is way more than what they'd have to pay to just get Venu. And with Venu, they can get everything they need for less money. I wonder why they weren't able to say that. Hold on. Give me a minute. I'm going to get to it. You read about these rulings and your eyes water. They don't. Don't worry. Just know this, that about a week from now, when Venu was going to start, it's not starting. So if you were holding back some shekels and you were digging through your pockets to try to find that $50 to get it, you can give it to charity. Guess what's not going to start in September? Venu. Or October? Venu. Of course, Fox, Disney, and Warner Brothers could walk into court and say, "Oh, I need you to turn this around. I need emergency relief because we're going to start right now." Football season. Do you know who doesn't really care about the seasons as they go round and round and the painted ponies go up and down? The courts, the judges don't care. Did I just do a song reference that no one got? And the seasons, they go round and round. Nobody? Anyone remember my pick of the day? Nothing personal, pick of the day. You know what that is? That's when we do a pick. We're 106 and 112. Do you know why? Because we lost a game. The last time we did a regular show was last Thursday. We had the Orioles beating the Blue Jays, and the Blue Jays beat the Orioles. And so we're 106 and 112. But a few things have happened of note. We did not give you the Corbin Day because we weren't here. But if only we would have on Friday. The Phillies beat Corbin, of course. I think the Phillies were like minus 280, but we would have done it. We don't get to take credit for it because we didn't say it. We are back to picks of the day. Let's give you one for today, Monday, August 19th, 2024. Is anyone paying attention to what's going on with the Stros and the Mariners? It is the land of despondency in Seattle right now, wasting away that great rotation. The trade deadline acquisitions not doing well, at least recently. Astros are playing the way you play when you've got a dynasty. I think they're 9-1 in the last 10. I think they've opened up a 4-game lead in the division. The Mariners are behind in the wild card enough that their best bet is the division, which the Astros are running away with. Astros are playing the Red Sox. Their trade deadline acquisition, Kikuchi from the Blue Jays, he was so bad for the Blue Jays before this trade. He's been so good on the Astros. Maybe just likes train tracks and oranges, but he is 2-0 and a 2.76 in his 3 starts since the trade. He's going tonight against the Red Sox, and I don't know exactly why you're having the Astros, who are the hottest team in baseball, only giving 125 to the Red Sox. But we're taking advantage of that. Yes, we are. I want to do some wait to sees now, Coca, to end because it's been since last Friday when we did a show like this, or last Thursday. Wait to see is when we tell you something's going to happen, like Paul Skenes is going to be shut down. We have a document on davidsamsonpodcast.com. You can follow up all of our wait to sees because we'll follow them up also. On July 25th, happy birthday, Hannah, on July 25th of 2024, when Yelich was out with his back and they were trying to rehab it, I told you that Yelich would be out for the season. Well, Christian Yelich has opted for season-ending back surgery. We got that wait to see right, and it's not a wait to see that I want to get right. Christian Yelich has been dealing with back problems since he was a Marlin. Milwaukee knew about the back problems when they signed him to that huge extension. Back problems can derail a career. Ask Don Mattingly. Many conversations with Don Mattingly and Christian Yelich about backs. Here's the thing, the surgery that Christian's getting, my hope and thought is it's going to work. I believe it's going to work. But it is a miracle surgery when you have pain and then you get surgery and it goes away because the underlying issue has been taken care of, and then it never comes back. That's my hope for Christian. Not sure that's a thing. I've seen players get surgeries before. It fixes the issue, but for whatever reason, it causes things to happen at later points or in different parts of your body. Yelich is playing for a team, was playing for the Brewers. They're, oh God, I think they've got an 11-game lead in the Central. They're crushing it. Hader, who needs him? Yelich, who needs him? They do. But boy, Counsell, who needs him? Yeah, they don't. How about back on May 30th when we told you that Pedro Grifol would not manage the White Sox on opening day of 26? This is an interesting way to see, Coca. While I was gone, Jerry Reinsdorf fired his manager because they're losing. I think their record is now 2-169. So they're struggling this season, no doubt about it. And finally, Reinsdorf said, too much. We're firing him. I had to wait to see that he won't be the manager in 26. The reason I chose 26 is that Pedro still has a year left on his contract, and Jerry does not like firing people in the middle of their contract. So I get a yes for that wait to see, but the truth is I need to take a no. Because when I gave the wait to see, I didn't think Pedro would be fired this season. I thought that they would fire him during or at the end of next season, but it's so bad in Chicago, they had no choice, and so they canned him. Jerry doesn't like that. Congrats to Grady Sizemore. We'll talk about Grady Sizemore more. He was one of my first draft pick. First year we ever did a draft in 2000, we drafted Grady Sizemore. I want to say it was the 3rd round. Overpaid him, got yelled at by Bud Selig. What the hell are you doing? That's not how we operate in this game. Yeah, but I heard this guy was really good. You don't know who the hell Grady Sizemore is. Yeah, that's true. But the guys I paid to know said he's really, really good. Grady Sizemore had a hell of a career. Now he's a manager. Here's the last wait to see that I want to talk about. Do you remember Kevin Brown? Well, on 8/14 of 2023, way back, almost over a year ago, August 14th of 23. Do you remember Kevin Brown, who was the play-by-play for the Baltimore Orioles back when Angelo still owned the team? And remember that he got suspended because he read something on the air that was just a stat. And the stat was something like about who they don't play well against or who they've lost games. And all of a sudden he got suspended. And I told you on that day, not only is Kevin Brown not going to get fired, Kevin Brown is going to get an extension. And the reason he's going to get an extension is because it was completely ridiculous what happened to him. Well, there's a new owner now in Baltimore, David Rubenstein. And guess what? Kevin Brown just got an extension. And the reason he got an extension is because he's good and worth it. So that wait to see is a winner from August 14th, 2023, when we said Kevin Brown would sign that extension because cooler and smarter heads would prevail because that suspension was an Angelo special and you are trying to separate yourself as much as possible from everything he did. Winning a division would be one way to separate it. Winning a World Series, that would be the number one way to separate yourself. On the other hand, if the Orioles win the World Series this year in the new owner's first year, that will do something to make that owner believe that everything he does is going to work. And here's the problem with that. It doesn't. We've tried it. I wonder when all these owners are looking at their teams right now and they're looking at where they stand in the standings and they're thinking about the deadline and they're writing checks, knowing that they've got to write checks through the end of September. I know what they're doing. They're looking and saying, great job, GM. Or they're looking and saying, you stink. Either way, what I'm saying is it's just business. See you back tomorrow. This is nothing personal.